91% of organizations that are in the cloud say that they are wasting money in the cloud. 86% of departments are not incentivized to reduce their cloud spend. That's a mind-blowing number. Hi, welcome to Experts in Polo Shirts. I'm Ryan.
I'm Matt. Today we're going to talk about Azure cost management and how people are doing it wrong and spending too much money.
So, it's you I need to speak to. So, yeah, like that's the intro to that. So, okay, right, we're here, back in the room. Cool. So, 91% say they're wasting some amount of money. It's something we see. Yeah. Like we've seen it a little bit for ourselves, but we've been there now for years, so we're on top of it for us at least. But then something I've got questions for you. What do you think the three main reasons are that people cite for wasted like cloud costs? What do you think the three biggest reasons are?
I'll go from first. Oversized and provisioned resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. Historical data, maybe that's in there.
Okay, yeah, that's one of them, but not one of the top three. Yeah.
I'd say failed projects. I think we see it a lot where clients have started a project, they've pulled out halfway through, but they've actually not thought about the cost that's involved with leaving it there. Yeah, that's one of the top 10. Oof.
Yeah.
Go on. What the top
so
three?
We've got lack of skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one that is. We can dive into this, but I think lack of skills it's one where you have to invest
definitely
to see the return. That's return of investment. That's ROI. So like that's a funny one because it's to really get everything you can out of it. You need to put the money in, but you've got to pay money to save money there. But that is actually the number one. So lack of skills is ranked as the first thing. Over provisioning, covered that one, and idle or underused resources. That's a very common one. I mean, we have tasks to look after that every month as well. But yeah, top three, lack of skills, over provisioning, and idle or underused resources. Lack of skills, how do you work around that? Like, how would you work around that? What would you advise, I guess, as well?
Yeah, I think it's people have a true understanding, I think, of things like we've got third-party tools which can provide overviews of costs, resources. Yeah. But obviously now Azure's a beast, isn't it? Someone might click something, think they've turned something on, but in the background, let's turn 3 or 4 things on. Yeah. And then the costs then are spiraling. So I think it's people staying on top of things. So the monthly cost management and really understanding like the Azure pricing tool as well. I think it's a huge one we see. Yeah. People just think it's the basics, add one thing, but they're forgetting things about the bandwidth, the backups, all the things that tie into it.
And then it just ties in, like, I think the top three, they're linked, because if you've got a lack of skills in cloud and you try to do it yourself, you're just gonna eat cost in everything because you've not got experience, you've not done it before.
And do you think that's on the on-prem mentality?
I think so.
Is you could just over-provision a box.
I 100% agree. Yes, definitely, because straight into over-provisioning. So number 2, the second most cited reason for wasted cost, over-provisioning. I think migration is probably the biggest cause of that up front. Yeah. Someone just copies exactly what they had on-prem without maybe thinking, oh, I've got 2 CPUs and 4 gig of RAM. Yeah. But what are your CPUs? Are they actually better, like compared to your 10-year-old tin that you've got? Are they better on the current version 5 or maybe even version 6 that you can get in your cloud provider?
Or was your on-prem actually over-provisioned?
And was it over-provisioned? Did you go and do the research to check whether that box ever went above 50%? Does it even need the spec that it's got today? Yeah. Did you just do a like for like? Because that was the safest thing to do at the time, which makes sense, but don't be scared to go back and like turn it down, especially something as simple as a VM. Yeah. Legitimately, there are a couple of considerations. You need to make sure that the SKU you want to go to that's maybe a bit smaller in specification is compatible. Yeah. Like there's a resource disk to think about and whatnot, and it's available in the region. But once you get over those 2 hurdles, which isn't much work, we're talking 5 or 10 minutes, and you could be saving hundreds a month per VM that doesn't need to be on the SKU you had in VMware or you had in Hyper-V, because you just had the capacity and you were already paying for X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think over-provisioning, not realizing, again, but if you had the skill in Azure, you would have considered that. So again, lack of skill also feeds into this one, I think, in my opinion as well. Disks as well. disks, storage account, storage in general. I mean, do you want to take it away on that? Like,
yeah, I think we see it more and more, don't we? If people migrated to the cloud, they've brought historical data over, and for them, they've just dumped it in the wrong type of storage account, or they've put it in something like archive storage, not realising what archive truly is, and then starting to pull data out of it, getting high transaction costs trying to get that data back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting the full picture kind of before you commit to it. It's not just a case of stick it up there.
Yeah.
That sounds wrong, that, doesn't it? Yeah, move it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, even like with storage accounts, have you put it in a storage account where you pay as you go and you pay for what you consume? Or is it in one where you're paying for what you have pre-provisioned?
Yeah, and
don't get them mixed up because that could really hurt. So, but that is the exact same for disks. Like storage can be such a big cost factor if you really don't think about it. Like, do you need a disk that is the equivalent size of the one you had on-prem?
Yeah.
Let's look at what you're using. Using 60 gig on a 250 gig disk. Don't provision a 250 gig disk. Provision the smallest one that you can. You can just upgrade it really easily. Downgrading basically doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, you've really just got to do the planning, and you've got to think about, is this a SKU I need based on my history? And then storage-wise, like really, really think about it and take into consideration lack of skills. Like these are things that you would miss if you didn't have the skills on this.
But would you say, with lack of skills, do you think it's an easy thing to find? So for someone to, I don't know, look down trying to find what SKUs are over provision, storage, kind of build the bigger picture, do you think Microsoft provides those tools, or do you think you need a third-party tool?
Yeah.
Not necessarily an Azure-based tool, but it could be a monitoring tool.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some recommendations, but there's ones that we've seen where the advisor isn't recommending what makes sense sometimes. Like, is it in Azure's best interest? Maybe. Are they doing it on purpose? Maybe not. Do they want that tool to be the best? No.
Yeah.
Could you get a third-party product to do it, or could you develop something yourself? Yes, probably you could. Like, even in your monitoring system, like you say, like, just go and look. What's the history on this box now? In this new world, it's only using 40% of its CPU at peak. Okay, right. We can massively reduce that and so forth. So, yeah. And I guess sometimes as well, vendor recommendations, they're also made for an old world, maybe with weaker CPUs in consideration. Because a recommendation of X CPUs can't take into account, is this a Platinum Core mega gigahertz CPU, or is it something bronze? Yeah, exactly. So sometimes even the vendor recommendation, you can tweak it. Like, you can always just increase it. Like, legitimately, 10-minute work to increase it again. So don't be afraid to maybe challenge the status quo. That's something I guess I'd say as well. Yeah. So,
I think taking it a step away from the technical side, a lot of it might be the journey of the business in terms of there might be legacy servers that are still running. No one knows what the server is, but no one wants to turn that server off just in case the world explodes. Yeah. But then it's looking at, I guess, modernising your estate as well.
Yeah.
So we've got traditional file servers, we've got SQL servers.
True. Yeah.
You know, working out, will it be cheaper to move off it? We've seen it multiple times where clients have got 10 SQL servers, running a few legacy databases, but really we could look at consolidating them, moving them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing the tools don't know. They don't know your business, how it works, what the future is for your business.
100%. Yeah. Skills. Again, like it comes back to skills, even though we can say it's overprovisioned resources. If you had someone that's got the experience with this, they've done it before, literally, like, it's not just lift and shift, it's the lift and optimize. The whole, like, cloud migration tree, there's like 7 levels to it. It's like re-architecting a program is the top level. Yeah. But before you even get there, just one step above lift and shift, like just copy and pasting your VM up. It's the optimized part, like, could we put the SQL in Azure SQL? Could we use PaaS and save money there? So, yeah, absolutely. There's another one.
Yeah, I think it's people understanding like the cost savings that can be put in place as well. So we've got things like reservations. We can do that on virtual machines. We can do it on storage accounts.
Yeah. Schedules as well.
Yeah, I'd say it's a big one. We've seen probably more now, people allowing us to shut machines off in the night, isn't it? So we put power schedules in, so they're saving money on there, which actually works out cheaper than a reserved instance at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's on 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, that is not half of a week. That's like a quarter of a week versus a reservation where you're roughly paying about half the price. So like, if you can do that and it makes sense, absolutely as well. So yeah, there's ways that even without changing anything, we're just turning something off that is not used after 6 p.m. Like you can save money there as well.
Absolutely. It goes to almost like the AVD scaling plans, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've got 10 users in at 6 in the morning and we're ramping things up then.
Yeah. And there's no saying you couldn't just go and turn the box on if it was needed, but like probably not.
Yeah.
Cool. And then number 3, idle and underused resources. This makes sense. So this is something that can really get away with you. Either it's just like maybe a lack of process control, like you maybe provision and deprovision VMs often, but someone isn't selecting delete disk, or your script, your blueprint isn't accounting for that, and now you just end up with 138 disks that you're paying for. So only £15 a month, but it's times by 130, so like the number scales massively. So
I think we see that in bigger organisations as well now, don't we, where they've got multiple departments, they've got developers, they've got multiple people who can actually access Azure, so people are spinning things up. So I guess it's having the right controls in place as well, I'd say. So limiting people to subscriptions, using tags, which I think is a great one to actually know what resource is doing, who it's been created by.
Correct,
And then allows to go into cost management then.
Someone cloned something in the middle of the night to do a test, just didn't delete it ever. So now potentially you've got a VM that might be online but not on network that you're paying for. Even the storage, again, that might seem small, £15, £30 a month, but when you're multiplying it by like triple digits, it really gets out of control. So I guess that kind of feeds into, on those points, monitoring systems. We've covered some monitoring. I'll talk about what are we doing? Like, what do we do, I guess, to cover that? So,
I think the expert side, like Azure cost management, it's not, I wouldn't say it's an easy product to understand, to use. You need to know every little element that's in it. So I think having someone that can kind of do that. Obviously, we're monitoring it constantly. There's some great community workbooks out there as well, where we can look for underutilized resources. But we're using third-party monitoring tools as well, so we can actually look at a machine from Azure point of view, but then we can look out from an outside view. We've got historical data on that. We can say, actually, we could be doing X, Y, Z. We could be pounding the machines off. Reservations would be best for this. We can move you to PaaS. So it's kind of the overarching. And
it's funny because by doing that, if your CSP is actively doing that, they're also actively affecting their own bottom line, which seems counterproductive. So why would anyone want to do that? I mean, if you want to give the best service, you've got to consider it.
I think it gives them the money to develop as well, doesn't it? To push them to...
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, hopefully a very, very grateful, like, IT manager, whatever, they can go and take that and say, hey, look, we've saved money here. Can we just spend it somewhere else? Because usually, I guess that's how budgets are defined. Some people, and this is, funnily enough, one of the reasons is also... people don't necessarily want to reduce the budget. No one's incentivized to do it because then their department gets less budget, which is funny. But if we can do it and it stays within IT, and then IT own that and can just use it to go make better tools for the system for the rest of the company, then that is an incentivization without being like a direct benefit to a person. But I think that's a funny one. Like the way that budgets work, some people, there's no incentive to do it. And that's one of the massive things that in the same study, there's no incentive. No one's incentivized. 86% of people, I think, 86% of departments are not incentivized to reduce their cloud spend. It's so funny because if they did, they'd have less budget next time. It's such a funny way around it. But if you can get someone that understands that and wants to reinvest, amazing. That company's going to grow. They're going to be happy with what you've done. So
it's, I guess, like I say, a lot of the techs probably don't care that it's costing £1,000 for that. So it's kind of the middle ground, isn't it?
So it's it's getting, I guess, the senior tech some point to just like understand, accept that, and then realize maybe you can actually use this next tool that you've wanted to use, or is there anything you can do with AI? The current buzzword, but there's a lot of cool AI tools out there. It's not cheap. Do you want to look at AI? Is there anything that can help you with? Can you make a clever chatbot or something that automates and runs through like a ticket desk or something? So
I don't know. Did you see? I think I was reading on Reddit about an AI that was spun up in Azure. I think they left it on by mistake. Didn't realize it was doing, and actually didn't provision properly. It was costing them $30,000 a month, and someone had just left it there running.
That is terrifying. I guess you could do that with almost anything, but
Well, yeah, I think
someone doesn't know what they're doing. And I guess this is not just monitoring, but I guess also policing, like what you've got with like alerts. Like you need some sort of daily alerts because everything you use, you pay for by the minute.
Yeah.
And if you just turn it off, like we said about the VMs, that's gone. Like 30 grand cost, like, what was the time period? Was it over a month or?
I think that was like a week or two they're running it for.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I guess try and save budget so you can pay for AI.
Well, I think there's plenty. I think someone put in there, they would put a Cosmo DB on.
Yeah.
To see what it was like, and then he forgot he left it on.
Yeah.
And then $7,000 gone.
That is one of the mentioned ones. I think you covered that as well before, which is, lack of expiration date on temporary cloud resources. Yeah, that's one. There's
But do you think that comes down to almost governance and security and tenancy then?
It does. Yeah, it does. 100%. That's company process at that point. But that was never an option. So you as an organization, if you're cloud focused, you have to modernize your business practices to understand that someone can do that by accident.
Yeah.
Someone could just turn on, like there's some VMs that are like 20 grand a month because they've got so much RAM and CPU.
Yeah.
Someone could just turn that on. And what can you do? You've got a quota, but like if someone is doing 48 on a 50 quota, which is like most of the defaults, it's on. And now you're going to pay for it. Microsoft, they're just going to bill you.
Whose responsibility would you say it is then? So we've got us an MSP.
Yeah.
We've got the customers.
Yeah.
Whose responsibility would you say that comes down to?
I guess at least the way that we own it, the customers, like most of our customers, I think, take ownership because it's their cost at the end of the day. But we, I think, have a hand in it because first cloud migrations, first bit of cloud, this wasn't a consideration for us. Talking like half a decade ago now. And it was small costs at this time because it was a couple of VMs, but like an extra £100 a month appeared out of nowhere. Oh, it's because we spanned that VM up for a week. Oh, that's interesting. Who does that sit with? We just took some ownership of that. So, I mean, as part of like one of our checks, we cover that daily now. So everyone has a monthly budget, which you can set monthly alerts in Azure, but not daily anymore. So you got your monthly budget, but then how do you slice that out? So if it's 10 grand and then it's going to be around £300 a day, how do you calculate that? Do you have someone look at it and go, 10th of the month, this should not be above 3,200 or something? Or you have someone go and manually run that every day. So we've got processes and we've got tools around that because ultimately we're, as a CSP, we may be the one that's paying and the customer's paying us.
Yeah.
Like, who spanned the machine up? Are we getting into a weird finger pointing blame game? No one wants that.
No.
So I think everyone has to own it is the one. But yeah, definitely consider it. Like whether you're the IT department or whether you're a service provider, I think you both have to own it in some fashion.
And do you think Azure gives you the tools to do that on its own? Or do you think, I'll rephrase that. Do you think Azure does it if you've got the right skill set? If you're not quite there on the skills, do you need a third-party tool to help you?
Yeah, I think you probably need a third-party tool anyway. Yeah. Hence the development team that we have building an even better version of like a Azure budget calculator. Azure budget like monitor system because the default is not good enough because especially the fact that it's like just monthly now, at least on like just the default budget alerts, it's just monthly. Now you'll get an alert when you hit your monthly budget. You might have set that at 10 grand, but you get the alert on the 10th of the month. What are you going to do? Just turn the estate off in the next 20 days and just not work.
2 weeks holiday now.
Exactly. So it's everyone has to own it. And if you need to, there's a way that you can brute force it. You can just manually just brute force it with just a person checking every single day and updating a spreadsheet and it goes red if it's unhappy. Or you look at a third-party tool or you look at developing something. But this is... all these savings can exist and you can get a really nice, clean environment, but you need to potentially invest some of that into this monitoring as well. Yeah.
I think as well, what's overlooked is almost a business forecast, isn't it? So we're getting 20 new staff next month.
Yeah.
What does that mean for us? Actually, they don't look in the background of they need X amount of AVD hosts.
Yeah.
We need more storage now in for profiles.
Yes.
We've got all these bits coming in.
Yeah.
So actually, us looking at it, the cost has gone up X amount.
Yeah.
Is that because they've got new staff? Is it because they've built additional services with them?
Yeah. So it's also the recalculating what should the budget be? Do we need to increase that? ideally that's ahead of time and not when it's happening. Because then, when it's happening, when the budget is increased that day, like £400, okay, why was that necessary?
Yeah.
And now you've got, if you've not got the process in place, have you got to call every single person that's got access? Which subscription is the one that went up? It's that one. Why did it go up? Who did that? Oh, there's no tags. So Azure policy can probably help with some of this as well, to be fair. Actually, policy, but then also just your company's policy and process of making sure people are accountable for this sort of thing and think about it. But yeah.
So I think one I see a lot at the moment is around backups for clients as well.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
They've put immutability on the vault, which is fantastic. Yep. It's locked. You can't delete the data.
Yeah.
But then
immutability is great. Don't just tick a tick box if you don't know what it's going to do.
Yeah.
This is a skill thing again, but it's also like the over provisioning.
So we've got a 10 terabyte server. We've come along, we do a costing exercise. We're going to move that to Azure files.
Yeah.
But now actually we've got 10 terabytes stuck in a vault from that backup.
Yeah.
Then we've got to do another backup.
Yeah.
So now we've just doubled our costs.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen people with like a 10-year retention sat on the vaults. But I think that comes down to a confusion, doesn't it, around retention within an application and retention within the actual backup.
Yeah. I think so.
So I think it's the confusion around that. So I think it's planning things correctly, looking at your strategy of where those servers are going to be in 12 months' time, 2 years' time.
Yeah.
And do you want to be locking things into that?
Yeah. Do you need that immutable constantly?
Yeah.
Do you? How many backups do you need? I've also seen where there was potentially someone that did it themselves and they had a backup being saved on the first and last of every month for 7 years. But the first and last of every month are only 24 hours apart. So there's no real difference.
Yeah.
Do you need 2 backups a month for 7 years? No, you don't. So there's one. That's half your price by just fixing that for you. At least the immutability wasn't on that one.
Yeah.
But it's definitely backups is one that can spiral away because it starts small as well.
Yeah.
And then that's the one that you then notice in a year's time. So it's not the monthly one where there's a VM and this cost is higher. It's so obvious. It's in front of you. This is the one that can just creep. And now you've got no way to stop it. It's immutable as well.
Growing beast.
There's literally no way to stop like that at that point. You just have to refactor what you've done after you've found it. But, yeah.
So I think that comes down to the design phrase, doesn't it, really?
Yes.
In terms of laying it out correctly.
Yeah.
Kind of making sure it's future-proof where the business is going.
Yeah.
So I think one question we get asked a lot around cost saving is kind of people reducing the redundancy they've got in the environment, which, it will save you money. People, multiple firewalls, the type of storage you're using for backups, etc.
Yeah.
But obviously the risk that comes with that, Azure is an enterprise solution, what it's offering. And to get that, you are paying for it. If you're working with an MSP, you might be hosted somewhere, you've got shared services. Obviously, this is more dedicated, so you are paying for your own firewall. So, So I think question, if someone came to you, Ryan, and said, it's spiraling out of control, the cost now.
Yeah.
We want to look at getting rid of a firewall. We want to reduce redundancy. We want to stop backups being geo-redundant.
Yeah.
What would your argument be to say to them?
Yeah, this is a good one because
you do need to pay more.
There's a security element to this as well. Is how much would it hurt if this went off? Because there's an SLA attached to every item, and then it is how much would this affect the company if this wasn't on anymore? If the firewall wasn't on, that's one of the biggest ones. You'll probably lose. You'll definitely lose north-south. Will you lose all your east-west server-to-server stuff? Potentially as well. So, I guess one of the starting points that some people want to save money up front is they like the idea of 2 regions, but they might only take a single firewall. So then you've got one firewall in one region. Now, okay, maybe you've got ASR to the second region, but if the first region dies, you spin up your ASR, you've got no internet.
Yeah.
Are we going to rebuild the firewall with potentially 1,000 rules in it? That's a business risk, and that needs to potentially, maybe it's not even just a decision for the one team that we're speaking to. That is a business decision. If you're, as a company, happy to sign that off, because every company's got their own business continuity plan, and that is when we're talking about things like that specifically, turn off any HA. Yeah. This is business continuity. Maybe this is outside of IT specifically directly. So as long as the company completely and fully understands, potentially, we go that route, but it is definitely educating them. Yes, you can do that, but you really need to consider these are the impacts of this, maybe there's another way that we can help you save money. Like these servers, is this necessary? And then potentially, if you want to start looking at some one-off costs to maybe start to convert things to PaaS.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that already. But like if we start to look at, can we now start converting some of those old SQL servers that you didn't want to touch? Because maybe other projects are quieting down. Is that a way that we can save you some money? So it's like maybe directing the conversation and understanding the intent. They need to save money, but maybe directing it somewhere else.
Yeah, actually, you can pay an extra $2,000 over here to get this nice feature, and we can actually save you $2,000 over here.
Yeah.
And then,
and they're the ones that are they're outside the day-to-day like cost saving tasks. They are shall we optimize now?
Yeah.
It's going to cost time from your team and our team. So there's the optimizations, but everything else should hopefully already be considered. We're constantly removing idle and underused resources. There's runbooks that can look for that for you. So all the common ones are already happening, and you've already factored that into your budget, but your budget still needs to go down.
Yeah.
Shall we look at something else? Like, let's help you recommend something. So
I think a good point you made there. Internal resource is a big one.
Yeah.
It sounds like a silly one to make cost saving, but the amount of projects we work with, obviously businesses are busy. They're probably understaffed within the IT department. And for us to say, we can make you a cost reduction, but actually we need X amount of your time to aid us with it, to analyse what you've got, reconfigure applications with us. So it's kind of an unknown cost, that I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then it's the ones that are under provisioned in that way, because you're like, I potentially gonna need this person 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
But they're so busy fixing their own servers and end users, they might not have that time, which slows that whole project down.
Yeah.
People don't see the return. So again, it's these things that we've seen already. Like we've experienced these, so like at least we can point it out and be like, we need this up front. This is the project plan. We're gonna need these people. So it's an interesting one to consider, really.
It gets to a point where it's almost like double bubble, isn't it? So they're working on one project, we're trying to save money, but then a new project comes in over here, and then they've got a legacy system, they've got a new one, and they're like a builder, never finishing a project, nothing's ever finished.
Yeah, exactly.
So so obviously we speak to a lot of clients now about, kind of reducing costs, and so there's great things like saving plans, reserved instances, kind of, I know they're not a fit for everyone all the time, but kind of what workload would you say fits best to them, and kind of, how how would you almost sell it to a client in terms of the saving it can make them? Yeah,
it's funny because I think if we think about cloud, we think flexibility, right? However, you do actually have to take some of that away to really like structure these costs and then have it work similar to how you might have had it on-prem. So on-prem, you're going to buy something and you're like, well, this is a 3 to 7 year life cycle, depending on exactly what I've bought. But in Azure, I can just turn it off and on when I want. Yes, you can. But if we plan the same way, if we plan 3 years ahead, okay, ideally this system is going to be gone in 9 months.
Yeah.
We don't touch that one. But your domain controls are going to be around forever. Your monitoring server, potentially that's going to be around forever. It might just change the software that's on it, but it's still going to exist. So if you treat the cloud in a way similar to how you might have been thinking about on-prem, you can still access all the cloud features and you still do have flexibility. But looking at reservations, absolutely, where you want to just lock in those prices just like you would have done. You would have bought, a terabyte of RAM and X number of CPUs, and you're not going to just go, I'm just going to not use that in a month's time. Yeah. No, you would not want to pay double the price for this for 3 years for no reason. You planned it out, you spec that. I'd say do the same with your individual VMs here. If you can. And then that's how your reservations, that's when your saving plans come in. You're locking yourself in a little bit more, but you would have been on-prem. You still have the flexibility of everything else that's in the cloud as well.
I think the saving it makes as well over the 3 year period, it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially because there's the option to turn VMs off as well. Like you can turn off services to save money there, but if you can reserve it, you don't have to worry about that. Especially anything that's 24/7. Yeah, that's one. And then AVD, you've mentioned that as well. Exactly the same thing. Scaling plans, they're brilliant. They're really simple. If that existed for servers as well, that would also be nice. But there's ways around that if you've got the skills again. But if you can just think about these things, and do you need your RDS servers on 24/7 when you're on-prem? No, you don't. You probably don't. Maybe up to 10 p.m. for some companies, people that want to work late. but you left it because it didn't matter. But no, you have to refactor the way you think about these things 100%. So yeah, scaling plans, reservations, and then like schedules. Yeah. Massive consideration. You've got to pre-plan to think about those. Yeah.
And do you think this comes out at kind of the design level? Mm-hmm. So would you say that the amount of time you need to put into actually designing it to move it into Azure, that's where you need to spend the most time to kind of get it? Because like I say, you can get yourself not a sticky situation, but you're committed at some point, aren't you? You've moved, you've got your resources running there.
Yeah.
So I think it's spending the time up front, kind of getting it done correctly.
Yeah. It ties into we're just going to move from on-prem to the cloud. We have this much RAM and CPU per box. We just want that up here. But on-prem, you weren't necessarily thinking this VM is specifically this. Yeah. You were just like, my platform needs a terabyte, and we've grown about 50 gig of usage a year. That's not much. So next time when we're about to refresh, because this is old, I need 1.2 terabytes. That gives me a little bit of coverage. I can grow into that. That's a platform. This isn't. It's per like service. I think you need to be thinking about it. Like, again, it's just that way of refactoring how we have done IT for the longest time. Yeah. Think about it more on the specific. Maybe not even like on the per resource level, but like per like application group. Yeah. This application, are we still going to have this and all of its features, SQL application, web server, like all parts of this one product? Are we still going to have that in 3 years? Yes. Okay, let's group them together and put them in we need to reserve these because they are 24/7 potentially pile. So yeah, it's trying to group things logically, but now it's not just single platform and we've grown this much. It's take it down to a VM level or at least a product level, and then where is that going to be in X amount of time? But yeah, design, you've got as much pre-planning as possible. Yeah. Ideally, you've got the team, which you've already said. Ideally, you've got the team and their time to think about that and consider that really, but work with your partner. Like who have been there and done that probably 100 times, and you've done it 0 to 1 time. So for them, it's Tuesday, and for you, it's like the biggest thing that's happened in 7 years. Use the experience that's out there. Like that's what they're here for. So
yeah, I think the Azure pricing tool on its own's kind of a beast. If not, obviously we're using it day in, day out, aren't we, for clients and customers. So I think if you've not used it before, I think it can catch you out massively. Yeah, and I think by the time you realise it's caught you out, you've told your director I can do a 20 grand migration, all done and dusted.
Keep clicking drop down boxes until the price looks really good. Oh my, this is amazing. There's so much RAM. Yeah. This BVM is brilliant. Yeah. Why is it so cheap? There's the reason.
Yeah. I think one you touched on before was around, we were talking about responsibility. Yeah. Around the cost management. So you've got your kind of IT staff, but I think now IT is such a big thing in the business. Yeah. Do you think it goes to kind of the leadership level in terms of, I guess, future-proofing Azure, kind of where they want to be, the roadmap? Do you think they have an input into the billing side, would you say, cost management?
Yeah, I think so. I think the ones that are thinking about it, the most successful cloud adopters are the ones where it isn't necessarily just the IT department that has the buy-in, or maybe the technical departments, because you've got the devs and then you've got the IT and infrastructure teams, but it's where they have the buy-in from their board. Yeah. They're the ones that I think like have the most success.
They can see the true benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the problem is where there is potentially an IT department that is maybe worried to speak to their board and say, we need this. That is where the issues can come in, because they're like, we just need to make a saving. We've been told that we need to make a saving. But do your board understand fully? Have you fully explained to them where the ownership lies and how, again, everything we said, this is different to how it used to be. It's not just a single platform and ownership was just with IT, and you can plan it out and you say, this is what we paid for 3 years. This is never going to change. Yeah. And then in 3 years, we'll reevaluate. No, not anymore. There is like, if you want the flexibility, the power, all the new tools that are made every single week, if you want all of these things for your business, you have to take more ownership than you previously did.
I guess it's the bigger picture as well of staff costs as well, isn't it? So actually, you by doing all this nice, cool stuff in Azure, we can actually make staff more productive.
Yes,
we can
exactly.
Save staff costs.
It's ROI. We covered it. I think we might have covered it on the last one, but it's like the digital adoption. One, it needs to start at the top, really. They need to understand that the top level of your company needs to understand. So IT can maybe try and sell it, but really it needs to already like exist. Like the C-level, the C-suite, they all need to really understand and buy in to digital adoption and how much you have to push it so you can see a return on investment, and the return on investment, it's there. Like it's in facts.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know it was like good 30 to 40% ROI on any sort of like cloud and dev projects. And some organizations, depending on the size, were even seeing 100% ROI, depending on what project they were putting into. But if you don't have full buy-in and a return is expected within like a month or 2 or even 3 months of starting, it's not going to work. Overlap, like you've covered as well. You're going to have overlap of resources there. But yeah, it's the idea you've just got to have buy-in from everyone at the company.
Yeah.
Because things are going to change the way that you're going to be doing things, whether it's just billing or whether it's just using the systems. Yeah.
Agree. So in terms of in the past, the dev has just had the SQL Server on-prem. They've logged into it. They've just seen that nice thing. They don't actually have to care about the cost of running a resource. Mm-hmm. Compared to now, a lot of the offerings in Azure are dev-based, aren't they?
True.
So we've gone from having a nice isolated environment. Cost doesn't really matter. They've got the SQL license. They've got the Visual Studio. But now there's just so much out there for the devs, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's given them the understanding as well. So it's kind of merging. So you've got to do a bit of infrastructure, but then you need to know quite a bit about devs now.
Yeah.
So you're kind of wearing multiple hats. Mm-hmm. And it's almost guiding, I'd say, the dev team around it as well.
That's true, because they're probably just going to want to use the coolest product that they can find. You've got to align your business to what the devs are trying to do. Where's the return on investment? Like, is this going to help the business like grow? Is this going to make you better than a competitor or something?
Yeah.
Like, what is the return going to be like on this? Because so many, like almost every new product I see is like there's some new way for data engineers or developers to do something new and fantastic. But it's just going to be so expensive.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's people worth looking at the dev subscription as well, because there is some good cases where you can use it for, say, development, non-production workloads. Yeah. Like, say, you're not paying Windows licensing. There's a really good cost saving.
What's the cost difference with the dev versus standard?
So you don't pay you pay Linux price for a machine.
Yeah.
But it can be like non-production, no active users can be going on it.
Yeah, exceptionally cheaper to do testing. So I guess that's a good point. Is there is a dev environment that you can make for your dev environment. You don't need to do dev in production. So it's another consideration that you just need to just bear in mind. It's another way to save money. But if you don't know about it, you don't know about it. Yeah. So you've got to educate yourself.
I think that's it. It's working with a partner as well, isn't it? Who can, they've got a relationship with Microsoft. They can come forward with savings, quite clever things you can do for them. There's people who can get funding for projects they're working on. Funding
is a good point actually as well. Yeah, I guess one way you can save money is by funding upfront. Like Microsoft will help fund all like the one-off costs of the project, as long as you're hitting your milestones and you're of a specific scale. But like you can potentially save a lot of one-off upfront.